Hello and welcome to the NFL Draft edition of the Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast. My name is Hunter Baumgardt, your host. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HunterBOnAir. Also, be sure to like the Facebook page, Hunter Baumgardt Sports, as well. Of course, you can listen or watch the podcast. You can listen on SoundCloud or watch on YouTube. And just search Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast there. So this is going to be the NFL Draft edition. Of course, the NFL Draft is coming up quickly. It'll be this Thursday through Saturday. It's going to be virtual. It's going to be, I don't know what it's going to be, to be quite honest with you. We've been seeing tweets and reports coming and quotes from GMs and coaches saying, we've had technical issues. They've been obviously running tests and seeing how things go. And there's been, I think they did a 32 team, where everybody had a representative on the call and it kind of got jumbled. And I'm interested to see how this all goes. So I'm just as interested as you. And I want to talk specifically about the Packers strategy because I have one way I want them to go. And I don't think you can change my mind. Also, wearing the Badgers shirt. And yep, we have the Badgers hat back there as well. Badgers have some really good prospects coming up in this draft, and I'm really interested to see where they go as well. So there's plenty to talk about with the draft. Thought I'd do just an entire episode on the draft, and let's get into it. So the Green Bay Packers have the 30th pick in the draft, right? So they, of course, lost the NFC Championship game. And here's the deal. The Packers, they've had Aaron Rodgers for over a decade. He's started for over a decade. They've been to one Super Bowl, and they've won that Super Bowl. It's great. One Super Bowl, fantastic. The key on that Super Bowl run, there were many keys. The defense was a lot better than it has been in any of the other years of Aaron Rodgers. They had some decent running backs, James Starks and Brandon Jackson, sure. The wide receiver position was what really got that team over the hump in a way we have not seen since. The year after the Packers Super Bowl, when they still had that receiving core, and they added Randall Cobb. We saw what could happen. A 15-1 year, sure, they lost to the Giants in the postseason, but you saw how prolific that offense was. Since then, the wide receiver position's been a lot of this, up and down. And it hasn't gotten to the core that they had that season. Sure, they've had some good years, some bad years, but it hasn't gotten back to that core. What the Packers have now, I don't even know if I could call it a core. They have Devontae Adams and a bunch of guys. Geronimo Allison is gone, thank goodness. I'm happy about that. But they've got, I have to check my notes to remember. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, they call him MVS. Jake Kumaro, Equinemius St. Brown, Darius Shepard, Malik Taylor. These are the guys you have, and Alan Lazard as well. And now Devin Funchess. These are the guys you have catching balls from one of the greatest to ever do it. Do you think that wide receiving core could get you to the Super Bowl? We saw Geronimo Allison flat out miss, and I know he's not on the team anymore, but he flat out missed in the NFC Championship game and led to a Rodgers interception. Did you know that Aaron Rodgers' receivers cost him at least 648 yards last season because of drops? The average for qualifying quarterbacks, 282. He's almost 400 yards more that his wide receivers cost him than the average in the NFL for drops. The second place quarterback had only 507 yards cost because of drops. Aaron Rodgers had almost 150 more yards cost to him by his wide receivers dropping balls than just the second worst quarterback in the NFL. So by far, by a landslide, Rodgers had the most drops from his wide receiver, costing the most yards. And that doesn't necessarily go with what they cost him as far as interceptions, like Geronimo Allison in the NFC Championship game, not the Super Bowl. Let's take a look at this video, okay? This video was sent to me. Here we go. Let's take a look at this video. We've got Aaron Rodgers back to throw. Over the middle, drop. That's an easy catch, all right? Rodgers, second one. Boom, drop. Jake Kumaro. All right? All right, here we go. Third one. Rodgers back to throw. Rolling to his left against the Lions. Boom, drop. All right, Rodgers against the Bears. All right, let's just put it right on him and there's another drop. How about let's getting the number one wide receiver by a mile, Davante Adams, just right to his hands and down it goes. Last one here against the Raiders, right in his hands, scared of the hit, drop the ball. Is that what we want? Is that what we want as our wide receiving core? And I know Davante Adams had a great year, and I know other players like Allen Lazard stepped up. But I'm telling you right now, that if the Packers don't get one of these stud wide receivers in the draft, these guys who can come in day one and be that guy for Aaron Rodgers on the other side, opposite Davante Adams, they are not, Gutekunst is not doing his job. The Green Bay Packers need to draft a wide receiver in the first round, and they might need to trade up to do it. Now, there are names and names and names. There's a big list of wide receivers. If you didn't know, this might be the deepest at wide receiver the NFL draft has ever been. My buddy Grant Bills likes to remind us all of that. But, oh man. Sure, there could be other years where I'd say, okay, they need to, draft a wide receiver, but there aren't many options. Or they need to draft a wide receiver, but, blah, 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 blah. This year, there is no excuse but for Brian Gutekunst to make either a trade or stay where they are if a good wide receiver falls to them. I'm highly suggesting they trade up. I mean, I don't know exactly where this is going to fall. Nobody does. Obviously, there's been mock draft after mock draft. The thing I looked at SI.com today that was posted just a couple of days ago, in the first 16 picks, 4 wide receivers left. Okay? That's a lot. And those are the 4 that I've kind of focused on as wanting, okay, for this Packer team. And it's not a scenario, I know a lot of people are like, oh, he'll be gone. Oh, he'll be gone. Oh, he'll be gone. No. This is the year that the Packers, we've seen Gutekunst trade up. We've seen Gutekunst do 2 things. Trade up, and also we've seen him go in bunches in position of need, right? He got Jair Alexander. He got Josh Jackson, right? He doubled up in that draft a couple of years ago to get the corners. And Jair Alexander has proved good. Josh Jackson is a little lost. That's what they need to do in wide receiver, but they don't necessarily need to do it if they can trade up and get one of these guys, or if for some reason they fall to them. The guys I'm talking about, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs III, and Justin Jefferson. Okay? Some interesting things about these guys that I've kind of looked at. We've heard time and again, Aaron Rodgers has talked about wanting smart wide receivers, right? Heard him on the podcast with AJ Hawk called the Hawkcast. The last night I listened to it. Okay? He was talking about there's only been a few specific guys in his career, including Devontae, including Jordy, including Randall Cobb, who are smart enough to know the scheme, why they're running the route, what it will do to the defense, what it will help Aaron Rodgers with on the offensive side, what they can do if Rodgers is scrambling around. They know the scheme, so they know the pockets where he could throw it to, where there will be no defender, right? There's specific guys that have known the scheme. And I'm not saying they need to draft necessarily a guy who knows, everything day one. But I'm saying they need another one of those guys. You need a guy opposite Davante Adams who can not only have the playmaking ability, but the smarts as well. And this is interesting. I wanted to look at this because I'm like, what do they measure smarts by, right? Other than just watching him play on Saturdays, for these prospects for the NFL draft. Well, one of the things is the Wonderlic test, right? The Wonderlic test, okay, is used to measure the cognitive ability and problem-solving aptitude of a prospect, okay? Let's take a look at the list of the Wonderlic scores. Now, these top 4 that I'm talking about that I'd want the Packers to get, none of them are over 20 in the Wonderlic. Now, the best guy was Michael Pittman at 29. These are only wide receivers. Michael Pittman was at 29. But you've got CeeDee Lamb at a 13 Wonderlic. Jerry Jeudy has a 9 Wonderlic. Henry Ruggs III scored the highest on the Wonderlic test of the top 3 wide receivers supposedly in this draft at 20. Okay? So he didn't do too badly on it. Justin Jefferson, who we'll get to in a bit, had 19. So then I focused on, okay, I want smarts, and I know the Wonderlic isn't the NLBL. I understand that. But I want smarts. I want playmaking ability. So I focused on those two, and I think I came to a conclusion that I'd be very satisfied if they were to get one of those two, okay? We just talked about drops. We talked about all the players that drop. You saw the video, all the drops. Henry Ruggs III, one of his strengths is catching the ball. He had one drop last year. One drop. You just saw in that video of what, four plays, 5 plays of the entire season, and all those guys had drops, right? He had one drop in 2019. That's good hands right there. Plus, he has speed. One of his strengths, according to CBSSports.com, is speed. Almost always one of the fastest guys on the field. Almost always the fastest guy on the field. Speed, he can catch the ball, okay? If you have to trade up to get this guy, I highly suggest it, Brian Gutekunst, if you're watching. And I know you're a big watcher of the Hunt Baumgardt Sports Podcast. But I'm serious. If you have to go up and get this guy who's not awful on the Wonderlic, who's got one drop in 2019 and is usually the fastest guy in the field, and went to Alabama, check. Checks the boxes, okay? Now, we have to take the Wonderlic test within reason. The players that have scored the 5 highest scores ever on the Wonderlic test have a combined 1 Pro Bowl appearance. So it's not like the Wonderlic test is an NLBL. But for Aaron Rodgers, he needs smart wide receivers. He needs talent for sure, but also smart guys. And I think the Wonderlic test shows a little bit of that, okay? How about, let's take Justin Jefferson from LSU. Okay, this is a guy that on SI.com, the article I read, he's predicted to go about 16th, okay? And he was probably ranked 4th out of these top 4 wide receivers that I mentioned, with Lamb and Judy and Ruggs and now Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, of course, on LSU, played with Joe Burrow, right? He has played with a very, very talented quarterback. He could adjust well there. Strengths, huge catch radius, okay? Can go up. You know, Aaron Rodgers is an accurate QB, but we can see that he's been a little off as of late. You know, last year especially, that some of the throws were a little off, but he has a huge catch radius. Excels at finding holes in coverage from the slot. So there you go. Slot wide receiver he could be. But he could also play the outside. He ran a faster 40 time than expected, and he could play either the outside or the slot. And this is what really got me. He's a QB's best friend, reliable, consistent route runner. We have heard time and again for years and years, Rodgers on trusting his wide receivers when it comes to route running. Jeff Janis was one of the guys that's like, I think, you know, Rodgers was like, I don't trust him, right? We all heard that. We've heard Rodgers say that about wide receivers time and again, that he wants guys that can run routes and run routes right. Justin Jefferson, reliable, consistent route runner. So if you get one of these guys in, like a Henry Ruggs, like a Justin Jefferson, who can start on day one and be a consistent route runner, or in Henry Ruggs' case, be a guy that'll catch almost everything, right? If you can do that, you are setting Aaron Rodgers up so much better, because then you have Devontae. Then you have one of these guys. You have Allen Lazard in another year after getting comfortable in the system, after getting just had a kind of a breakout year. Not that he made national headlines or anything, but he had a breakout year as far as Aaron Rodgers goes. Aaron Rodgers really loves the guy. And then you have Devin Funchess, who's a veteran who can come in and contribute as well. That's a solid 4. I'm telling you, it's a solid 4. Now, how MVS and Equinemi St. Brown and Jake Kumaro and all those guys, fit into the mix, we'll see. But I'm telling you, the Packers need to draft a wide receiver. I know they need, they need help on the offensive line. They need linebacker. I get that. But I'm telling you, sure, if something falls to them and they can take it, maybe. But no. As soon as I tell myself that okay, maybe if a really good lineman falls, no. Trade up, like you have the last 2 years in the first round, get a wide receiver. Get Lamb, get Ruggs, get Judy, get Jefferson. One of the four. I'm not saying get all four. If you have to give up some picks, that's fine. Jonathan Taylor, go Badgers. I'm wearing the Badgers shirt, by the way, because we'll get to the Badgers prospects in a second. Jonathan Taylor is a great running back. Okay, I'm excited to see what he can do at the pro level. They got Aaron Jones right now, and I know that Aaron Jones is going to be a free agent after this year. And I know you could pair him in the back for Matt LaFleur loves to throw to running backs. I understand that. We've also seen that not work super well necessarily. Sure, it worked well when we could get him in space and blah, blah, blah. But Aaron Jones had his drops this year. Running backs are better at running the football than they are receiving the football. So if you can let Aaron Jones do his thing while these wide receivers, Devontae and this stud that comes in and Funchess and Lazard and the rest of your guys do their thing while Aaron Jones is still running the football and focused on running the ball and doing his job as a running back, man, I think that could be a dangerous team. That could be a dangerous team. You have a solid defense. You've got the Smith brothers. You've got Adrian Amos, who you went out and spent some money on, right? You draft a linebacker, later in, whatever it would be. If you give up your second rounder for a wide receiver, so be it. If you give up a third rounder, so be it. You get a linebacker later in the draft. I seriously believe that since this is a deep wide receiver draft, and I'm not saying if they feel really confident in a guy and they can stay at 30 and get him, I'm not saying that you need to trade up. But man, it's a deep wide receiver draft, but there are a few in this draft that can be really, really good on day one. And if you're the Green Bay Packers and you're looking for a guy to pair with Devontae Adams, to play with one of the smartest quarterbacks ever in Aaron Rodgers, one of the most talented quarterbacks ever in Aaron Rodgers, you go and get one of those top tier guys. Okay? If you're going to get, right, if you were waiting around and maybe you had Baker Mayfield as your quarterback, or maybe you had Sam Darnold, a younger guy, and maybe you weren't necessarily going for it at the moment, right? And you had one of those quarterbacks who is kind of, on the fringe. I don't know, Teddy Bridgewater, right? You could maybe wait till 30 and get a very solid wide receiver. But if it looks like the board's going to go, as a lot of people are predicting, that maybe, these 3 to 4 guys would be off the board before the Packers pick, you absolutely have to look at trading up. Now, I don't know what's going to cost you, and there's some issues with that as well. But man, I'm telling you, this is the year the Packers need to get a wide receiver in the NFL draft coming up Thursday. We'll see if it happens. I don't know. I'm just giving you my opinion, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. The Wisconsin Badgers, and we'll wrap up here in just a second. The Wisconsin Badgers, they have a lot of players, not a lot, but a fair amount that could be drafted pretty early in this draft. Jonathan Taylor, Zach Bond, Tyler Biadasz, and Quintez Cephas are the guys that are everybody's focused on as far as the Badgers go. I'm super interested to see where Jonathan Taylor goes. He was predicted a couple of weeks ago to pretty much probably be a second rounder. Now I'm hearing rumblings of first round, and there's some mock drafts that have put him in that first round, and maybe even going around where the Packers are at 30. I'm not saying the Packers should get him. You just heard me tell you who the Packers should get, but I'm just saying that kind of around there. As the sun starts to come out, gotta love the sun, especially when we're all cooped up, right? Zach Bond, diluted sample. Does that hurt him? Right? He was predicted to be second round. Does he fall? We shall see. How about Tyler Biadasz? That is most likely a second round pick. And then Quintez Cephas is a wild card. He did say he'd love to play for Green Bay, and I wouldn't mind. As I said earlier, Gutekunst likes to draft but positions of need in bunches. So if he were to get a first-round wide receiver, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a Cephas maybe in the fourth round. And I wouldn't mind that at all. I'm kind of thinking fourth, fifth for Cephas. Just because I think he had one standout year. I mean, he's a very good wide receiver, but I really think he's going to be really interesting to watch, and I'm excited to see where he can go in the NFL, but I do think he's kind of a fourth round-ish, maybe third round, if he's lucky. But like I said, Goody loves to double up on those positions, and I would love it if they were to get a first rounder and then get Quintez Cephas as well, because these guys can replace. I mean, as great as Equanimeous St. Brown is, I just these guys can come in fresh and kind of just replace St. Brown, Malik Taylor. I mean, some of these guys, Darius Shepard. I just don't think that these guys are the guys of the future. And I could be wrong. We could be looking at this podcast and saying, what are you thinking? But that's what I truly think. So those are my thoughts on the NFL draft. Get a wide receiver. If you have to trade up for it, do it. Packers, do it. This virtual NFL draft should be really interesting. So it'll be exciting to watch Thursday through Saturday, the NFL draft coming up. So thanks for joining me for the NFL draft edition of the Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast. We'll be back soon. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HunterBeOnAir. Like the Facebook page as well, Hunter Baumgardt Sports. And watch on YouTube and listen on SoundCloud to the podcast. If you're in the car or something, or maybe you're making dinner and just want to listen, feel free to listen on SoundCloud. Just search Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast. But if you want to watch, find us on YouTube, Hunter Baumgardt Sports as well. Thanks so much for joining me. Stay healthy. Keep staying well. We can do this. We just keep, knocking off days. As Bill Belichick said, string days together. And I think that's what we're doing at this point. Everybody stay healthy. Of course, stay home as much as you can. Get outside, though. We've had some nice weather. As I said, the sun was coming in there. It's gotten a little cloudy now, but we've had some nice weather. So enjoy that. And as always, stay positive.